Happy New Year, everybody. First episode of the MJT Football Podcast of 2024 coming up right after the little jingle. We are live. Well, not live. We are back on the mics again. Not live. When you're watching this, it's going live on the MJT Football Podcast. I'm joined by my co-hosts, the J and the T and the MJT, Joe Morley Sports, Tony Tucker. Joe, how was your New Year's, man? Did you enjoy the weekend?
Yeah, loved it. It was just like the last 20 fucking years of my life, watching the Raiders get eliminated. But I was laughing right now. I don't know. This is way off topic, but there's a Christmas song that we were listening to on Christmas, and when you reminded me of it right now when you said jingle. Like, I've never heard this song, but there was a Christmas song where Santa's singing, and he's like telling us that he's the king of ding-a-ling, because he's like, jingle, 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 I'm the king of ding-a-ling. And I just thought it was funny as fuck, man. But
you never heard it before. You never listened to it. It's not on your playlist.
Never heard it. My whole family heard it. We all started laughing. We were like, what the hell is Santa talking about? But just to let you guys know there, start the show off with Santa is the king of ding-a-ling.
Yeah, you should post a link somewhere here, because I've never heard that song either.
No, I'll have to find it. Yeah, I'll send it to you.
It's nice being here on the couch with me and Tony, huh?
Huh?
It's nice to join the couch with me and Tony. You're Raiders.
Oh, dude, I thought you were.
Oh, you talking about like the casting couch? We need to get our minds out of the gutter, Joe.
Well, I'm talking about ding-a-lings, and then you're like, yeah, you could join the couch with me and Tony. And I'm like, hey, what the hell?
And I was like, I'm actually the only one sitting on a couch. I didn't follow either.
Anyways, Tony, how was your New Year's? Screw that conversation.
Yes. Now that we've besmirched the Coca-Cola creation of Santa Claus, thanks a lot for that.
Demonetized.
Things are great. I forgot I was going to hang my Michigan versus everybody t-shirt in the background here. So pumped about that. Got Michigan in the national championship game. One more game before Harbaugh decides to become the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. Let's get it.
Hey, so Harbaugh's interesting to me, Tony. I don't know where we're going with this show, but you brought him up, so I want to ask you a question.
The freaking script.
You did?
Go ahead.
I just want to ask Tony a question real quick, because Tony's a big Michigan fan. Every year we talk about Michigan. So I saw something. Harbaugh went to Michigan to turn Michigan around. Yeah. If he doesn't win a championship this year, right, in the next game they lose, is Michigan turned around? Are they great again, or should he stay there until he wins a championship?
Yeah, Michigan's back. Like this is as a Michigan fan, yes, it'd be nice to win national championships, but one of the best things you can do is crush Ohio State 3 years in a row, right? Like that's what we love. So when I was younger, there was a couple people in my life that were Ohio State fans. They were a little bit older. They had moved up to my neck of the woods for like mining and stuff like that. But when I was a little kid and we'd beat them, Ohio State has this really annoying chant where they go, O-H-I-O, right? So they chant the first two letters and then somebody who's in Ohio State. Well, I would always, when we would win, my brother would go O-H, and then I would go bio. Like that's what we would say to the Ohio State fans. When I was would have been my college years, even though I didn't go, we were drinking out in Los Angeles. Michigan beat Ohio State at this time. And I did this to the wrong Ohio State fans, like 6 really huge, ugly, dumb motherfuckers. And I spent some time running down the street. I was not going to fight these guys. It was like 6-on-1. I was like, this is fucking stupid. And I ended up running away. But that's like the thing is like getting a chance to talk some shit to the other fan bases. Hopefully they're level-headed enough where they're not just want to jump you when you're by yourself. But like, that's the fun part of it.
I like what you just told everybody right now, Tony. The life lesson. When life gets rough, run the fuck away. Run away.
If it's 6-on-1, I have no shame in running away from that ass whooping. I don't give a fuck.
There was a moment in the Jake Paul versus Floyd Mayweather build where Floyd Mayweather's entourage cornered him, and Jake's obviously playing like this cocky guy, right?
Yeah.
Nope. He took off. He sprinted. And I will say, he was pretty fast. He was running, and they were chasing him. They could not catch him.
I've never probably been as fast as either one of the Paul brothers.
Yeah, those guys are like, they're sneaky athletes. But I understand what you're talking about, Tony. In my group chat with my military buddies, there's one Ohio State fan who's from Ohio, and there's one Michigan fan, and they just constantly are fighting. Constantly.
Yeah.
Are you going to do that chant now, Mike, for them?
The OHIO? I play both sides of the fence. I just try and like poke the fire a little bit because I don't really give a shit about either team. So I just like will be like, yeah, look, Michigan's good this year, but then maybe Ohio State's gonna beat them, and I just keep toking the fire a little bit.
It's fun. Joe, as far as I'm concerned, they're back. Whether they win or lose, I would love.
If he walks away from Michigan, you're good with it.
Yeah, as long as he
Even
doesn't.
if he doesn't go to the Chargers.
If he leaves Michigan and goes to like the Bears, which would be a terrible decision, or he goes to the Raiders, which would be an even worse decision, then I'm pissed because then he's not coaching either one of my teams, and that sucks for me. But if he decides to stay at Michigan or he goes to the Chargers, it's a win-win for me.
Bolt up. You know you want it, Joe. You want to see Harbaugh stay in that navy blue and yellow.
I don't really care. I mean, to me, is he going to go in there and change the culture of the Chargers? Fuck.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. But anyways, that's next year, Joe. We're talking about this year still. This whole show is going to be about the NFL playoffs and then the NFL draft order. We have some time at the end of the show, but I've got it pulled up in the background. Let's go to it. We have the entire playoff picture here to look at. 1 second. Just fixing the view because...
So this is the current picture, right? This is the main picture that we're looking at right now. And then there's still a lot of...
Yes. This is what would happen if the playoffs ended today and we did not have one more game. But there's so many scenarios to talk about here. And I think the first one and the most interesting one going into this weekend is that the Bills have battled back and have now forced a AFC East title game here in week 18. That Miami Buffalo game, it's all the way here at the end of the screen. You see where my mouse is pointing. That one is for the AFC East. So the winner of this game will be moving up and playing a home playoff game in the first round. So if the Bills win, they'll play against the Colts as of right now, which also could change. We're going to talk about that. Mm-hmm. And if the Dolphins win, they will be the ones that are in the 2 seed. This is basically for the 2 seed, for the division. It's going to be an interesting game. And I want to know, Tony, what's your opinion on this game, man? You think that the Bills come out on top? They are 3-point favorites on the road against Miami.
Yeah. So when I look at the game, I feel like Miami's got to win just based on the way that the Bills have been playing. But then I look at the injury report for the Dolphins and how badly the Bills need this, because the Bills, they're not guaranteed a playoff spot. I mean, they could be, I think, at the time the game kicks off or whenever, however the scenarios work out, they could be in, which would take all the drama out of it. But like, I just look at the injury report and I'm like, how much more can the Dolphins sustain to really lose? You got a banged up Raheem Mostert. Like at a certain point, do you just sit him down and say, okay, we're playing for next week, no more? You know, like Jalen Waddle, not likely to play. You lose Chubb, Phillips, Howard's banged up. Like they're just losing too many players defensively, I think, to really be competitive in this game where everybody on the Bills has to be clawing and scratching. Like if you want to be in Buffalo and you want things to kind of stay the same, like I really think Sean McDermott needs this one to possibly still be the Bills coach, even though I don't know if we're talking about this, but everybody's talking about firing coaches and getting new coaches. Like, have you looked at the list of candidates? Like, I don't think that there's like 8 NFL coaches, but everybody's like, oh yeah, we're firing our coach and we're getting this guy. And it's like, once you get past like number 3 on the list, it's a real crapshoot of who you're getting. So if the Bills got added to that long list of teams that are firing their coaches reportedly, I don't think it would look great. So I don't know what I just said exactly, but I'm picking the Bills because I think that they just have to have it. Like, they have to win this game. So I'm going to take the Bills, but I'm not sure I really believe it.
If the Buffalo Bills lose this game, so if they lose this game, holy shit, it's going to blow up in Buffalo. Diggs is already pissed off for some damn reason. He's not getting used as much as he should be. He's already been on the outskirts since they lost last year. And you don't think losing this, because like you said, the Bills can be the number 2 seed, or they can be sitting their ass with us next week at home. They can miss the playoffs completely. And your top receiver is already mad, already pissed off with the organization for the way they're going. This would just blow it all up. So I'm with Tony. I think Buffalo wins. And Tony talked about it a couple weeks ago, Mike, when he told us, look at Miami's schedule. Miami's going to start losing some of these tough games. They have a bad, tough schedule. And they did. They did exactly that. So, yeah, I see if you're going by teams that need it more and teams that are going to come out here and probably and are healthier and probably ready to go, it's going to be the Buffalo Bills. I think the Buffalo Bills win this game.
I also think that the Bills win, and that's who I'm picking to win this one as well, which would put the Bills in the 2 seed as the AFC East champs. And I mean, when we talk about teams in the AFC, it seems like it's wide open. Anyone to try and take a shot at Baltimore in the AFC title game potentially. I think that's the game I want to see most. Buffalo versus Baltimore. That would be a ton of fun. We just saw Baltimore smoke Miami, and Miami's not fully healthy. They're going into the playoffs banged up. The Kansas City thing could be interesting as well, but I'm not extremely confident that they're getting out the first round unless their matchup ends up being very favorable. I think Cleveland versus Baltimore or Buffalo versus Baltimore are our best AFC title games on the table right now.
I want Cleveland and Baltimore. I want Joe Flacco riding back in there, falling asleep at the press conference, just being like, oh yeah, which jersey am I wearing today? Oh, I'm wearing the other one. We'll get a win. I'm going back to the Super Bowl. Like, this guy, what Joe Flacco did and all of the respect he had to demand, and I'm not going to lie, like, I thought this guy was fully cashed out after watching him play for the Jets last year. And really all he needed was a little bit of an innovative play caller and a decent offensive line, and the guy's still a top 15 quarterback in the NFL. Like, he should be, based on how he's playing right now, with the decent circumstances, he should still be a starter at age 40 in the NFL next year.
Well, Joe Flacco has nothing to lose, Tony. Coming in here, he was already the 4th quarterback of the Cleveland Browns season, right? He probably was sitting at home going, my career's over. I'm not going to do anything. Then he comes in here, he gets the phone call, hey, you want to come play for us? He comes out there. He has nothing to lose. He could throw that damn ball up. He could throw 5 interceptions in the game. Do you think they're going to take him out? No. He's just having fun playing, basically going back and playing like he's playing in his childhood. There's no fucks given in Joe Flacco's game this year because why? He's not supposed to be dominating anyways. They have a $252 million quarterback that's on the bench that's hurt right now, and he's just out there being that stopgap. So he's just playing for fun right now.
Yeah, and when you look at what Cleveland has on the defensive side of the ball, they have a legitimate chance, especially if he's playing the way he's playing. They have a real chance to be a team that could go to the Super Bowl. It's insane. But I just clicked the Buffalo Bills as the winner. That's who we picked. What we can do is we can set this as the playoffs now. So the Bills have the 2 seed, but we can go ahead and talk about the AFC South. Go ahead and talk about some of these other matchups and then flip that Miami Buffalo game. And people can really see like how much is on the line in that game and how much it's going to mess with the seeding. Miami goes all the way to the 6th seed with that loss. And before we move on, what do the Miami Dolphins need to do? Because I don't think that they're Super Bowl contenders this year. Like, Dolphins fans want them to be. I don't think that they're really a team that I think is going to be able to even make it to the AFC Championship game. I don't know how you guys feel about them, but what do the Dolphins need to do this offseason to become like legit Super Bowl contenders? It feels like they're knocking on the door.
Well, I think they're taking the proper steps. Like, it's really strange how people forget how greatness and how NFL teams are built, right? It's very rare for a Joe Burrow in his second year to just skyrocket and have one year where they go to the Super Bowl. And really, if you look back on history, it's like kind of who Dan Marino did that, didn't have a lot of success after that. And if you look at that playoff run, like it's not really as wow, look what Joe Burrow did as people remember. Like he played well, but like they should have lost to the Titans, that 9-sack game. They probably should have lost to Kansas City. Joe Burrow didn't play out of his mind. It wasn't like the run Flacco had to the Super Bowl with the Ravens that one year where he had a good defense and Joe was lights out in his Super Bowl victory. So like, I think the Dolphins are doing the right thing. They're taking the proper steps. If they can win the division this year, that's a big step. If they can get in as the 2 seed and win a playoff game, that's the next step. Like, I think they are taking the right steps. It's about like getting healthy, continuing to build a culture. Like, I don't think they're as weak or as soft as everybody says. I think just because they're so fancy and fast, we don't think they play tough. But tell that to Sealer and Christian Wilkins on that defensive line. Yeah. Like, those guys are monsters. If Jalen Phillips is healthy and Bradley Chubb doesn't get hurt in meaningless time, I'm picking the Dolphins to win this game and knock the Bills out of the playoffs. Like, that's where it's at. But you can't have all those major injuries. So I think that if they run this thing back, like, they should be favored to win the division next year. Like, you got to figure out the Tua contract, but like, they're doing the right things. Like, they're building a team that could compete for a Super Bowl.
It's just a matter of health and chemistry. Just keep building.
Experience. You have to win in this league through like building experience. That's the problem with the Bills. Like, they got that experience. They got all the way up there, and then they just ran into Patrick Mahomes, and he like wrecked the team's confidence. He like walked in and just abused them, and now every time it's like, what happened to this team? They're like shell shocked.
Wrecked my confidence too.
You had confidence?
I had confidence, yeah, before Mahomes came into the league. No, I don't have any.
Mike, let's go to the Jacksonville Titans game, because that's the game that's going to impact almost everything, right? That's like one of the main games. Because if Jacksonville wins, they're automatically in. And I think Colts are in if they win.
I have it here. I have the scenario down here. So the Texans versus Colts game is a win and in. They will get a wild card or the division, whichever team wins that game. And the Jaguars face off against the Titans in Tennessee. If the Jags win that game, they will win the South, which will put the winner of the other game in the wild card. So basically, for the Jaguars here, it's win and in. Now, if the Jaguars lose, I think they lose the division.
Yeah, that's what I want.
And they fall out of the playoffs. So Jaguars, this is an elimination game for them again. I feel like we just had this scenario last year, right? Titans, Jaguars last week of the season. And then for the other two teams, the Titans and the Colts, it's just winning in for them, but it's whether or not are they going to have a home playoff game or not. It's based off this Jaguars game.
Joe?
Which will be interesting. It will be interesting. I think,
well,
I don't know. The Jaguars are really beat up. Like, they're on upset alert.
Yeah, but it's I'm not really worried about the Titans. Like,
the
so
Titans
here's this is why I have a little faith in the Titans. Like, are we going to have one last like sort of farewell Vrabel game? You know, like there's a lot of rumors that Vrabel kind of wants to be out. He sees the writing on the wall. Like, the quarterback situation might not be right. Henry's going. Like, really, he's got kind of like from the heyday that's still there is Jeffrey Simmons, but he's banged up a lot now too and getting a little bit older. Like, Vrabel's looking around and going, wait, Ohio State? If Jim Harbaugh might be leaving to the NFL, like, I could go back and coach at my alma mater. Like, we'll figure out the quarterback situation. We'll be fine there. And I could go be a hero for my college football team. The Patriots job might be open. Like, he's got a good relationship with Kraft. Like, he might look around and say, hey, I don't really want to be in Tennessee. I've done everything I can. He might be looking around this division too and going, well, they got Lawrence and they got Anthony Richardson, who looked pretty good for a couple games if he could just learn how to take care of his head. And CJ Stroud's here, and I got Levis, like
Mayo boy.
Yeah, I think I've done all that I can here, and this is clearly a rebuild. He might have that final like, hey Derek, Tanny, let's have one last ride. Let's send the Jaguars home, remind them who they are in this division, like, a doormat since the Brunel days, and let's go. I mean, it's at home. I could see an upset in this game where he has the boys hyped. It's close at halftime, and he gives a great speech. They win one last game before he leaves. I don't know if I'm picking it, but I could see it happening.
And for the draft order, that sends the Titans down like 5 spots.
But if he's walking out the door, he don't give a fuck. It's just like
he doesn't care.
I don't think Mike Vrabel gives a shit about draft position at all. Like you could never tell me that man is playing for next season or tanking. Like he is way too intense to be like, oh, well, how would this affect our draft stock? He's like, no. He's too competitive not to do. He's still competing with guys out there like, oh, I could fucking give you a couple reps at tackle, pussy. Like, get out there and come on, work on that slide step. Like, well, you can't block that guy. Like, he thinks he could still do it. Like, that's how he's got that athlete, crazy competitive, like, that mindset of a competitor, of a player, of an athlete. Yeah. Like, he just thinks differently. There's no way he's thinking about what draft position he's going to have.
And his teams reflect that. The teams that he coaches always play like that too.
Yeah.
I think that it's upset alert as well, Tony, but I hope and I think that the Jaguars are going to find a way to get it done. Joe, you're in on the Jaguars too, right?
Yeah, I'm in on the Jags.
It seems like
you changed the Miami game. You got to go back and hit the Miami Bills again.
So let's just say the Jags win.
It seems like the Jaguars also maybe precautionary, sat Lawrence for this exact scenario. Like, hey, next week everything's on the line. Yeah. Let's get this guy a week off.
Yeah. And it worked out for him.
Oh, and Jacksonville only needs one good half. One good half to win a game.
Hey, okay, real funny here. Mr. Haven't won a playoff game since like the 70s. Get the fuck out of here.
That week 18 was a playoff game, Tony. That's what they told me, at least. Let's move on to Colts versus Texans. This one is really interesting to me. CJ Stroud going to be back out there. CJ Stroud played in last week's game, right?
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
Played well.
Second game back, ready, rocking, back into the groove of things. And the Colts, man, they're just such a sneaky team. I feel like they got the perfect amount of guys that have experience now in the league, but they're in their like prime playing years, that Shane Steichen has just been able to put on a coaching masterclass with this offense, especially, but also the defense and Gardner Minshew. What do you think about this game, Joe, between the Texans and Colts in Indy? That might be the difference maker. That's in Indy.
Yeah, it's just two teams that are just clawing at each other and won't go away. Like that's the thing about when you see the Texans play and you see the Colts play. Like at one point in the game, you're like, "Oh, damn, they're getting their ass kicked," and then all of a sudden they're right back in the game. Both of these teams don't give up, and I think it's gonna be a hell of a game. But I'm rooting for the Texans in this game because I like CJ Stroud and I like everything that D'Amico Ryans and stuff. And plus the Colts ended my Raiders season last week, so I'm rooting for the Texans. I like everything about CJ Stroud. You guys already know.
The game's in Indianapolis, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for the Texans. I'm probably going to pick the Texans. I think it's just a more fun story to have the Texans in the playoffs and to have Gardner Minshew. And Minshew's fun, and I'll still watch and probably end up rooting for that because I like the underdog story, right? But I think there's just something about having CJ Stroud really cap off a rookie of the year season, make the playoffs. But the thing that I think would come out of that win the most is all of a sudden after 1 year of offensive coordinator experience, Bobby Slowick would become a legit talked about NFL coaching candidate. Like it started off kind of at the beginning of the year, like, oh, he's from time with the Shanahan tree, guy worked at PFF, he's into analytics, numbers, whatever. Like, I just think the guy knows offensive football and he's studied in some right places. And anybody, Joe used to say this all the time, if you even shared a cab, a cup of coffee, handed a handkerchief over to anybody from Kyle Shanahan, you're getting a head coaching job, or Sean McVay. Like, all you had to do is pass them in the lobby and be like, oh, one time I nodded at Sean McVay when he walked by, and they're like, that's the coach for us. Bobby Slowick has that on his resume. He's going to have this year with CJ Stroud. So I think a win here, and all the conversation is going to be like, do you want Ben Johnson or do you want Bobby Slowick? Like that, they're going to be a legit conversation for coaches coming up, especially if there's 8 openings.
And everything that Slowick does for the offensive side of the ball, D'Amico Ryans is like that perfect balance to the defensive side of the ball. This Texans defense played their ass off this year. I think Joe was saying it in the preseason he expected their defense to improve. But did you even think it was going to be this much, Joe, to where they're one of the better defenses in the AFC now, with a bunch of youngsters in that secondary?
So I think the crazy thing is the veterans, though, right? Jonathan Grignard, I don't know if I'm butchering his name or not. He's having a season where he's going to get paid this offseason as an edge rusher. He had a good year like 2 years ago and then kind of cooled off. But this year, I think he's announced his arrival. They still get a veteran snaps from Jerry Hughes out there making plays. The big guy in the middle, who is it? Sheldon Rankins?
Yeah, Sheldon Rankins.
Has had some phenomenal games for them on the interior of that defense. And then you get the emergence of Will Anderson, who has played spectacularly this year. Like, he's really good against the run. The pass rush is there. So I think, and all of a sudden, Stingley making plays down the stretch during this run, had like 4 interceptions in 3 games or whatever it was. So you get the players that are there. Jalen Petrie making a little bit of a rise. You know, if he can start tackling better, then all of a sudden you're loaded. It's a good defense, and they could get hot and win a game in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I've seen Indy's defense drop the ball multiple times this year. I don't have as much confidence in them as I do Houston.
I think we talked about Houston in our preview, and we talked about they brought in Singletary for a reason, right, on offense, and what a boost I think that has made for them. And Tony, not just when you're talking about Slowick, not just see what he does for CJ Stroud. They had Case Keenum in there for a game or two, and they still did good on offense. Like it just shows that coaching matters in this league, right? That if you get the right coach with the right situation, you're gonna hit, and Houston hit right here.
And they're starting to become like a fun team too. I think they're gonna have a good free agency this offseason. Come in and play with these guys. Like, for example, they have receivers right now that are young and up and coming, but who wouldn't want to go in and have fun with Nico Collins and Tank Dell this offseason?
Yeah, Nico Collins is a free agent. He's part of that free agent class where I think it's really nice, right? You got Ayuk and Higgins and Collins, and there's one more that's escaping me right now. But like, there's a good kind of low key free agency class of potential
so even scarier, they may upgrade from Nico Collins.
Exactly, they could go. They could go out and add, somebody in this draft. They could bring in another weapon there. I would say that one of the things to me that's most interesting is we're starting to find more coaches that are playing we're going to capitalize on your weakness card rather than this is what we do and we do it really well no matter what. Like, this is our identity. And I do think that's important to have, but you also look at what Belichick's done on the defensive side of the ball. Like, that defense will change from week to week for 2 straight decades. We're just, whatever you do really well, you won't do that really well against me. And you will find different players and ways to beat us. I think we're starting to see that offensively a little bit. Coaches are getting so used to the film. They're like, what does this team really struggle with? They might struggle with passing, but it might not just be passing. It might be middle of the field. Linebackers can't cover. Safeties have bad alignment, judgment, whatever it is. We're going to attack the center of the middle of the field the same. So I think like we're seeing more coordinators have that ability to be putting game plans together to attack the weaknesses of stuff instead of being like, we just run the ball and that's what we do, or we just throw the ball and that's what we do. It's like, no. What does that team do bad? We're going to do that really good this week in practice, and we're going to go out and execute on Sunday.
Yeah, and I think you're right on that, Tony, because it used to be like the Remember the Titans day, right? We got 6 plays. It's just like Novocaine. Give it time, and it's going to work. No, you don't do that anymore. Like you said, find the weakness. If that linebacker can't cover your tight end, or he's giving up a bunch of shit to tight ends, well, guess who you're feeding all day until they stop that guy? Like, we do it. I mean, it's something that we've done on Madden all the time. If I'm playing you in Madden, I'm going to find your weakness, and I'm going to do the same thing. Why not do that in real life? Find that weakness and go at it until they stop it. The Bears, when the Bears played the Raiders this year, they came out and said it. They said, wherever Max Crosby was, we made the play go the other way. And it was like, and we beat the shit out of them. And that's how we do it. Why not get away from their best players? You do it with quarterbacks. You were already doing it the last couple of years going, oh, there's Sauce Gardner. We're not going to throw over there, but we'll throw over here. You've done it there. Why not do it with the whole defense? It's a great thing. But there's a downside to it, Tony. The downside would be doing what Shanahan did last week against the Baltimore Ravens, or 2 weeks ago to the Baltimore Ravens, where I thought he overcoached himself and took away some of his own play callers because he thought maybe the Ravens were going to come in and take away his guys.
Yeah, there's some of that gamesmanship, I think, that goes back and forth where, yeah, it's gonna happen, but like it's really hard to me, I think, offensively to make that adjustment, right? It's riskier because there's more moving parts, especially if you're saying like, hey, there's something that they do really poorly, but we haven't really rammed this or executed this on game day, and you have to have a lot of trust in your guys to say, hey, I'm going to go out. We're going to do something that we haven't really done this week, and we're going to have 8 to 10 new plays that attack this specific thing. We're going to highlight a player that maybe hasn't really been like the guy for us, but we're going to go after it. And I think that's kind of why we've seen an explosion of like whoever it is, whether it's Noah Brown, has played way better this year with them than he did even with his limited time with the Cowboys. And you would think the Cowboys is like a better situation than a rookie quarterback and a first-year play caller, but he's played outstanding. Because he's put in those situations to succeed.
Yeah, and it's almost like the opposite of what the coaches that play for our coach for our favorite teams did. That's why they're both fired.
I can't
out of here.
I cannot watch Derwin James be outstanding the last 2 games and go, what the fuck have I been watching for 2.5 years?
It's insane. It's insane.
Well, click on the
anyway,
Texans, Mike.
we're gonna give this to Houston. So that puts the AFC. That's the AFC. And by the way, to all you conspiracy theorists out there,
Mike.
What happened?
What's up with Pittsburgh?
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So if the Steelers win, no, it doesn't change. That's it. That would clinch. That would clinch.
So no matter what. Okay, so
let's see. Steelers win and Colts
so
win.
Basically, you have to change it back to Miami winning.
Miami wins. And Tennessee wins. That's how Steelers get in. Oh, no.
Well,
they're in there. So Steelers get the 7th seed. If Miami wins and Pittsburgh wins, Buffalo will be out. That's crazy.
What if the Colts? It doesn't matter what happens in the Colts Texans.
Now, if they tie, that kicks the Steelers back out. Colts Texans in this situation, if the Colts win, then the Colts get the 6th seed, and the Bills are still out.
That just changes that.
Now, if they tie, the Bills are back in as a 7. This is crazy. It's so much that can happen. But I think this is what the NFL wants to see. This is their best bracket right here for the AFC, where you got CJ Stroud versus Josh Allen, Tua and the Dolphins, and Tyreek versus the Chiefs, and Patrick Mahomes and them. And then you got this Jacksonville-Cleveland game where Joe Flacco is obviously on his run, but you got Trevor Lawrence back into the playoffs as well.
I agree. I think that the league would prefer to have Trevor Lawrence in there, even if he's not playing that great. And I would pick and bet heavily on the Browns in that scenario against a wounded. Jim Schwartz is going to come out and go nuts on Trevor Lawrence in the first quarter of that game.
Who can't move right now. He can't run.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a pretty situation.
So Pittsburgh
played a few weeks ago, I think. They played a few weeks ago. I think the Browns.
No, Indianapolis. So Pittsburgh could have 10 wins and miss the playoffs, right? Is what you're saying. Indianapolis would have 9 and miss the playoffs?
Yeah.
I predicted that in our show, guys. I said the Steelers were going to have 10 wins this year and they weren't going to make the playoffs.
You should get like super praise for that prediction.
So if you're a Steeler fan, you're rooting for the Dolphins and the Titans this week?
I take that back. I had them at 11-6 and not making the playoffs.
The Dolphins win, the Steelers win, the Steelers are in.
Put the Bills winning, Mike, and then click on the Titans.
If the Titans win also. So you're rooting for the Dolphins and the Titans.
So you don't really care about the Titans game.
Well, if the Titans win and the Jaguars lose, the Steelers get their spot.
Yeah.
Because then this game is for the division. So then the Colts or the Texans would be in.
So yeah, you either want Jacksonville if you're well, it doesn't matter. You just want Jacksonville to lose, and then you're good.
Jacksonville to lose, or Miami, or both Buffalo to lose, I should say, and a Steelers victory, which I don't even think is a foregone conclusion versus even Tyler Huntley. And we're going to talk about should the Ravens and 49ers be resting their starters here in a little bit after we go to the NFC bracket. But I don't even think that's a foregone conclusion that the Steelers beat them with the backups.
Well, if we're going to transition to the NFC, I just got an alert that Sam Darnold is starting against Carson Wentz.
There you go.
The Rams versus
Rams
versus 49ers game?
That game means absolutely nothing to the Rams or
yeah.
I mean that seeding is mostly all locked up, right? There's nothing really going on.
But as far as backup QBs go, come on, this is a fun one. I mean, this is two former number 2 overall picks in back-to-back drafts, I believe, from a few years ago. Like this is
now they're backups.
And now they're backups on good teams with 2 of the best play callers. Like which one of these, like Shanahan, McVay, you know that they're going to go out there and try to get a win in this game with their backup QB.
Yeah.
This is the week to start Demarcus Robinson, Mike. This is the week.
So can Green Bay miss the playoffs? Is that what it is?
I lost because of that start, by the way.
Yeah, Green Bay can miss the playoffs.
And who would take their spot?
One of the teams from the NFC South, potentially. No. Vikings.
Mike, do you have the NFC?
Sorry, I just needed a moment to be pissed. The NFC is right here as well. So the way the NFC is formatted here and the way things could go either way, the Falcons and the Vikings kind of need some help. I believe the Falcons would need the Buccaneers to lose to the Panthers and then to defeat the Saints to make it. And then the Vikings would need the Falcons to defeat the Saints and the Cardinals to defeat the Seahawks, I believe. But let me run this here. So let's say Vikings upset the Lions or they just beat the Lions. I don't know if the Lions are playing for anything or not. Let's say the Vikings beat the Lions and the Falcons beat the Saints. So that puts us here with the Bucs in, but let's say the Bucs lose. So Atlanta wins the division now. And now they would need the Cardinals to upset the Seahawks. I believe who's the 7th seed here? Oh, no, Green Bay needs to lose. That's who it is for the Vikings. So the Bears need to beat the Packers. Then Seattle's in. So then they would need Arizona to win. So the Vikings need a miracle to get in here. They need multiple upsets by multiple teams in multiple cities at the exact same time. And they need
Tampa Bay wins. Tampa Bay's in.
But Tampa Bay wins, they win the division. Tampa Bay is in a win and clinch situation. If they lose, then the Saints-Falcons game is for the division.
Oh, shit.
So if Tampa loses, this Saints-Falcons game, if the Saints win, are in. The Falcons win, they're in.
And see, if I'm Green Bay, I don't want to play Justin Fields. That's a tough team. Seattle, I don't want to play Arizona because you've already seen what they can do. Oh man, this is a good last week. Like I don't think the NFL could have asked for I think I saw that there's 20 teams still alive for Super Bowl contention. So yeah, I mean, you're showing it right now. It's ridiculous.
Well, if the Eagles weren't a bunch of flying trash cans, it would be even more interesting with the number 1 seed still on the line.
So I don't think that the Lions are kind of locked into the 3 seed.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how much Goff plays. Do they go to Bridgewater? Does Hendon Hooker get some end of the year kind of evaluation snaps or whatever in this game? I'm probably going to pick the Vikings in this game. Not really, like they're going to start Nick Mullins from the jump, and they're going to let their guys go out there and compete, as long as it's a competitive game. So I'll probably take the Vikings from that standpoint to knock off the Lions. I just have a harder time believing that those other 3 perfect scenarios are going to line up. Like the Panthers beating the Bucks. Like, I'm not buying it. I don't know exactly what happened to the Bucks last week, but it's like laying an egg twice in a row against teams that I think that they're clearly better than, that I know that they're clearly. To talk about another job opening, Bulls, if you kick this one away, bro, like you can't come back. Like, you got to go. And Baker, the same thing. Like, we got on the show last week and I was like, Baker should be the quarterback of the Raiders. This guy's been playing at a low key MVP level. And then all of a sudden he has that stinker against the Saints at home. Like, come on, man. You can't do that.
Mike, can you have the Lions win and the Eagles lose and see if that changes anything?
Well, one sec. Before I do that, I was going to say this too. Tampa Bay beats Carolina, and these things happen. Seattle loses to Arizona. Chicago beats Green Bay. The Vikings are still in unless the Saints win. And then the Saints come into the
shit.
Yeah. So that also
in the playoffs?
There's a situation where 2 NFC South teams make the freaking playoffs this year.
That's horrible. That's horrible.
It is. But what were you going to say, Joe? What was the other scenario? To move
I just want to see if the Lions or Eagles are playing for anything.
The Lions actually are playing for the 2 seed, it looks like, because they just moved up to the 2 seed.
Yeah, but
if Dallas
click New York.
Oh my God. Yeah. So if Dallas loses,
if the Giants beat the Eagles, does that do anything?
let me.
So they're all playing then, right?
So, well, the situation with the Eagles and the Cowboys is they're playing for the division. So Dallas has the tiebreaker. Actually, Dallas is a win, and they win the East situation. Like if Dallas wins, they get the home field playoff game, and they get the 2 seed, no matter what happens with Philly. But if Dallas loses and Philly wins, then Philly jumps up to the 2 seed, and the Lions move back to the 3 seed. Now both the Eagles and the Cowboys lose, the Lions move up to the 2 seed. Now that seems like an unlikely scenario, but that could happen.
Yeah, unlikely. I was just saying. So they will be playing those 3 teams should be playing.
Everyone but the Niners and Rams, I think, can move.
Yeah, to me, it's just like the Lions situation is far-fetched. And if you're scoreboard watching at halftime and you look up and see, because I just got another alert on my phone. Sam Howell, QB1 for the Commanders. The way Sam Howell has looked, you're telling me that Dan Quinn isn't going to come out there and try and jump on Sam Howell early in this game and have this, 24-point lead. And then all of a sudden Dan Campbell's got to look out there and go like, all right, guys, let's run the ball. I think this will be the most punts Dan Campbell's ever had in a game. Like it'll be an opportunity to see how Campbell would call the game that he's not playing as necessarily life or death situation. Kind of like with what we saw at the end of that game. We're all texting each other and going, he's got to kick this, right? The second time. Well, he just got a third penalty. He's got to kick this on the third one. Oh, he's not gonna kick. He's dead.
Yeah, and I wasn't rooting for overtime so I can get 5 more points out of my running back. That would win me a fantasy championship at all. That wasn't doing that. Definitely wasn't doing that. But yeah, I agree with you. If Sam Howell's the starter for this game, he's going to throw 2 interceptions in the first half, and they're going to be out of it already. I think Dallas is going to win the game. And I think Dallas is going to win the division by winning the game, which is just crazy because what is that? 9 straight years we see a different winner in that division. I think that's cool, actually, that it flips so much.
It makes it interesting for sure.
And let's say Philly beats New York. So that puts Philly, the highest they can go if they lose the division is the 5 seed. They can't go any higher. So that puts them in the 5, which means that I don't think Detroit can move from there. So if it's true and Detroit's playing in a situation, I don't know if they play after or before the Cowboys-Eagles games, but the Lions will be locked into the 3 seed, which just means the only thing in flux from there is that South division, which could go to the Falcons, Saints, or Bucks still this weekend. I think the Bucks are going to win as well, Tony. I think they're just going to make that statement win there at the end of the season and head into the playoffs as the 4 seed and get ready for Philadelphia to come to town. That would lock in. If Tampa wins, that means we're for sure getting probably Philly, Tampa Bay. And then that would be, then we're going to get either at, what would it be? Atlanta? What if Atlanta wins? Oh, Green Bay makes it. So what the fuck, bro?
So hang on real quick. The
There's
Lions
so many things in this is melting my brain.
The Lions are playing at 10, right? So the Cowboys and Eagles aren't playing till the 1 o'clock slots. So that means full steam ahead for the Lions. I take it back. They're not going to be able to. I thought since the game was being played in Washington that it would be a 10 a.m. start. No, it's the whatever going to be the Fox game of the week, probably Cowboys, Commanders, Eagles, Giants, both play at 1:25 kickoff times in the late window. So, I mean, yeah, we're looking at, they bumped it back too, where they're all 1:25 start times so that they can get those like clear finishes. So hopefully they won't have any playoff scenarios where they have to jump channels. Like, oh, there's a kickoff at 1 and we're contractually obligated to go to this one. Like, no, 10 o'clock starts and 1:25 starts. There's like 7 games to start at 1:25. Like, this is the best game for the Red Zone channel. And I've only got, 1 fantasy championship to worry about. I wish I had more.
I'm going 8 split screens. I'm watching every single game at every single moment, all at once. That's what I'm going for. But okay, so we think that San Fran's going to beat LA. That doesn't really matter too much. We think that Dallas is going to beat Washington. So that would secure the division for Dallas and put them in the 2 seed. We think that Philly's going to defeat the Giants, which puts them in the 5 seed, locks them in. We think the Lions beat the Vikings, which locks them in on the 3 seed. But from here, Tony, look how much can still change. Okay. Oh no, we said the Panthers also. The Bucks are going to beat the Panthers, locking them in as the 4 seed. But even at that, we could have the Packers in the playoffs if the Saints lose and the Packers win or lose, and the Seahawks lose, and the Packers win or lose, the Packers go in. Oh my gosh. And if the Packers win, they can move into the 6 apparently, if all this happens and the Saints lose. Now, if the Packers win and the Saints win, it stays the same. So they have the tiebreaker over the Saints. But if the Packers lose and the Saints win, then the Saints come in as a 7 seed. And then underneath all of this is the Seahawks' potential to get the 7 seed if they win their game and all of this happens.
Yeah, Seahawks Cardinals to me is like, because how many wins would this? Let me see real quick.
I will say, Tony, we would like the Cardinals to win.
I was just gonna say that would put them at 5-12. I do think there's a strong possibility. Patrick Mahomes is sitting this game, but I still think Blaine Gabbert with Andy Reid
In their defense.
In the defense, they might be able to figure out how to beat the Chargers. So all of a sudden they go to 5-12. Might get Chargers a top 5 pick in that scenario. Like I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of hoping that they shut down Jalen Hurts in the second half and Marcus Mariota comes out there and just throws like 4 picks and the Giants pull off a Tyrod Taylor victory and the Giants go to 6 wins. Like, let's get everybody out of our way. Let's get Chargers a top 4 pick.
Yeah. Because the Giants win and the Cardinals win.
I think those are 2 teams that are ahead of the Chargers,
that
right?
The Chargers in the territory where their pick is going to be worth up to 3 first-round picks, 2 at minimum.
A lot. Yeah, there's a lot of value.
That's just the big picks. Like, I'm sure a 2nd-round pick, a 3rd-round pick, and maybe 5th in that as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of value. There's a lot of value in the Chargers losing. There's very little value in them winning. Giff Smith gets to have a 1-2 record as an interim head coach. That's not enough for me.
Easton Stick gets his first win of his career.
Not enough for me.
Khalil Mack ends his Chargers career with a victory.
Not even close, bro. Fuck out of here with that.
But yeah, Joe, that's what we were just saying. Like, if we locked it in with the teams that we had heavily favored to win all these games, it's still so wishy-washy. And Seattle, Green Bay, Atlanta, and New Orleans are all in it still. It's crazy. Craziness.
I'm ready to watch it.
It's going to be exciting. Get your popcorn ready. Everyone, let us know in the comments what you guys think is going to go down, who you guys think is going to be able to get into the playoffs this year. The next topic I actually want to talk about, let me switch our camera view to the correct one here, was the topic of the 49ers, the Rams, like all these teams that we're talking about that are in a situation where they have to decide between resting their starters or not. It's been kind of like a age-old, what the heck? There we go. It's been an age-old conversation. Like, do you sit your starters and let them sit and watch football for 3 weeks, or do you keep them on fire? Do you keep them in the groove and keep them playing so that way they go into the playoffs hot? Last year, the Chargers head coach, whoever that was, made a decision that he wanted it to stay hot and he wanted to keep the momentum rolling into the playoffs, and we saw what happened. In my personal opinion, every single time, these guys are fucking professionals. You keep them healthy. You rest them. You don't put them out there and risk it if it's unnecessary. But what do you think, Tony?
So I heard some interesting stats that like teams that rest their players going in have a really shitty record, and then teams that just allow their players to go out and play a couple of series or a quarter, that their success rate is much higher. I wish I would have remembered the stat or done actual research. That's not how I live my life. But I'll tell you this, playing them, the numbers are better going into the next week. The thing that I do remember, Eric Mangini making a very compelling point. He said it's not as much that you want to, what you don't want to lose is the attention of the players. Because what happens is in a situation like with the 49ers or the Ravens or whatever, is that if you tell them like, hey, these 5 or 6 guys, you're not really playing this week, you lose a full week of practice with them because then you have the bye week too. So like you lose their attention and focus for like a 2.5 week period. And he's like, that's really hard to get guys to get locked back in and focused and everything. He said one of the things that Bill used to do was, hey guys, we are playing this game to win. Everybody's suited and ready to go. He'd get out there and he'd let them play a series and he'd be like, Brady, Vrabel, Brewski, all these guys, he'd be like, you're out. Like, you're not, whoever he had on those early Patriots teams were like, no mas. He'd take out like 8 guys and backups would run the rest of the way. The problem with that scenario is he said that you start playing guys that are normally like key special teamers. They start getting more. Then all of a sudden if they get banged up, now you go into the playoffs trying to figure out holes on the special teams. So it's like, what's the right answer? I lean towards caution no matter what. You're a fucking professional. You keep your ass locked in. You be at every practice no matter what happens here. But I understand both sides. I would rest my 5 of my like have to have them guys.
And I think especially with the Ravens and the 49ers, like you got experienced players on those teams. I mean, the Ravens are a little bit younger. These guys have been to the playoffs year after year. Like they're ready to go. What do you think about this, Joe?
Well, I think injuries are going to happen no matter what. If you're in practice, in a game, it could happen. They could walk down the street and twist their ankle. It could happen. So if you're playing because you don't want injuries to happen, I think that's a bad excuse. But if you're playing just to get them like a mental break, a mental rest, like maybe if the guy is banged up, like if like Brock Purdy this week, he has that stinger issue. Okay, sit him for a week. Maybe that stinger issue gets it. But if he's 100% healthy and there's no reason for him not to play, I'm sitting him out. I'm sitting him out there. That's me personally. But if there's any kind of injury out there, and maybe not the whole game, Tony. Maybe we see how it goes after the first quarter or something like that. But I'm sending them out there, getting them going, getting some reps just to do it and keeping that rhythm going. And that's just me personally. But if there's any excuse that I could use to keep them out, any injury, because at the end of the day, too, I don't know. Teams don't have to think about this. Coaches don't have to think about this. But us as fans, I think about it. I'm paying the same amount that somebody paid for week 1 to go watch this goddamn game. I want to see the starters out there. Just like I want to see the best players out there when I go to the game this weekend. And if they're only out there for a quarter, okay, they're only out there for a quarter, and that's what I got. But I want to see some of the best players out there whenever I can. And the NFL wants to put the best product out there every time they can.
So one of the things whenever you hear athletes talk about, and I think every amateur athlete can also relate to this, nobody's 100% healthy at the end of any season, no matter what level you're at, right? I can go back to playing tennis and having like extreme pain in like arm serving, whatever it was, and like horrible blisters on my feet from playing tennis for like 8 to 10 hours a day. Like hockey, end of the season, been hitting the kidneys, urinating blood. It's like you're not doing fucking great at the end of any long athletic endeavor of whatever it is that you're doing. So like I am not taking the risk. And yes, you use this year, like you could step up a curb and twist your ankle. I think it's a lot more common that a 25-year-old guy gets his shit kicked out of him on an NFL football field than Brock Purdy, who's been using his feet for 25 years, steps off wrong on a curb. Like that's shitty bad luck or whatever. I think you have to, no matter what increases your chances of winning in my mind is having availability. That is number one to me. So I'm not playing these guys, even if they're quote unquote 100% healthy, which nobody is. I'm leaving him out of the game. My quarterback, receiver, defensive guy, like, bro, you can't Bosa, you ain't playing. Sorry. If you got incentives or want a chance for defensive player of the year, it ain't happening, bro. You're not playing.
Yeah, and it feels like the 2 1 seeds this year are teams that may have won other Super Bowls if they just stayed healthy in other years. So like they have recent experience of how easily this whole thing could be taken away and this whole season could be flushed down the drain. Now, knock on wood, we don't want to see it. At very minimum, please play callers this week. If you're
Lamar
not playing,
already locked up MVP, by the way, too.
Yeah.
Like you go back to back wins
game
that he had in holiday season. Like that was the perfect showcase for him. Hey, San Francisco's the best team in the league. No, bro. You forgot about me. You forgot about Lamar. Oh, well, the Dolphins are good. No, they're not. Like Lamar just went back to back, like upside the head of 2 teams, and Christian McCaffrey's cooled off, Tyreek Hill's cooled off, Brock Purdy cooled off. Like everybody you could have made an argument for cooled off, and Lamar got hotter. Like that's it, it's locked up. Huntley can play.
What about Josh Allen?
Are you kidding me? They won games, but did you watch the games?
I just want to piss Joe off.
Okay, I was gonna say,
but that's some actual shit that if you turned on ESPN right now, that they're talking about Josh Allen is the MVP still, and I'm like, what the?
What? Who's saying that?
All the experts, Tony.
Probably Dan.
We're the experts.
I'm far from an expert, but I'll tell you this: if you watched him play the Chargers, that wasn't an MVP performance. If you watched him play the Patriots, that was not an MVP performance. Like I'm sorry.
First half of the season,
but he beat the Cowboys.
I don't care.
Wow, you don't care.
Yeah, come on, Tony. Show that you care. Anyway, I think that resting him is the wiser move as well. Do you guys want to talk about the NFL draft order real quick?
Yeah, we can. I think we could save that for next week if you want. Like we could bring it up real quick, but it'll be more cemented next week.
It will be cemented next week. We will know pretty much the order of the top 20 picks next week. So I like that idea. We'll talk about the draft order next week. I won't include it in the title or anything, so that way we're not, teasing.
Me and Tony like the movie Draft Day. And Tony, I saw something today that said the Bears could be in that same situation this year.
Yeah.
As the movie Draft Day.
Yeah, they definitely could, for sure. What's his name? Drew.
What do they do?
Ryan Drew?
They trade their pick for like a whole franchise of players.
Well, it's just like they have a quarterback, and they might draft another quarterback, and they
Mike,
trade
you've not seen Draft Day yet?
I haven't seen any movies, Tony. Not
I'm
any.
so disappointed in you.
Oh,
Just turn it into like a watch along. Like we have people that like you just I don't know how that shit works. You know, like
Well, we always talked about doing that one series, Tony. Remember where it's like old man watches old football movies with the fucking dumbass kid?
Draft Day isn't even that old. It's like it's definitely came out in your time of being an NFL fan for sure. Because like Arian Foster plays, he's young enough to play like a college
NFL players in the movie?
yeah.
Hell yeah,
That's
Terry
pretty cool.
Crews, former San Diego Charger great.
It's about the
NFL
Browns, right?
Yeah,
What
it's
happened?
about the Browns. Kevin Costner.
It's,
Is there a
it's
way to show it, like to do it, like if we did Draft Day, the movie, and we all three of us were watching it, kind of like?
I mean, we can't show it on the video. I don't.
Yeah, so basically what we could do is we could do a pre-record of us watching the movie, but we can't see it. And then if anybody wants to watch it with us, they could also time it up and listen for our commentary while we watch the thing. The thing is
Or
like
I just won't be lazy and I'll just clip the best parts of our watch, and then we can use some clips, like the clip be short enough to where it won't trigger YouTube.
our reactions to Draft. Yes.
I'm on YouTube. I'm on YouTube saying I'm gonna rig YouTube to not catch me.
Yeah, YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube.
I don't know.
Take that. Anyways, I think it's time to wrap this up. I'll watch Draft Day before we have our draft conversation, so that way I can be included in the convo about the Bears situation that they found themselves in thanks to the Panthers' idiocy last year and probably going forward for the rest of the time that owner owns.
Oh, can we talk about that real quick before we leave?
Yes, we absolutely can.
Yeah, go ahead.
Dave Tepper, didn't he get fined? What did he get fined? $300,000?
$300,000.
Not enough.
$300K.
Not enough.
Okay, does this make it like? Is he like the new Dan Snyder? Like, do you not want to like? If he needs a head coach this year, he needs a head coach this year. Are you taking this job? I know there's only 32 jobs out there. There's 32 head coaching jobs, and you're going to take what you can get. But really, is that going to be your number one spot when your owner's acting like that?
And I don't know who's out there that's going to come to Carolina that is an upgrade from Frank Reich.
They don't exist. Like I don't know when you have the people calling Ben Johnson and saying like, bro, you don't want this. It doesn't matter. There's not enough money in the world for you to deal with this type of stuff here. Like he's going to have to take a really wild out of the box approach, which is a super long shot to hit because you need to get the right people in there around the piece that you paid all of this to go get. Like Bryce Young at this point he's not ruined, right? He's stayed upright. Yes, he's had some tough luck, but you have to go in there and get the right people around him. But who wants to come and work for somebody that is clearly insane? Like if you think it would have been bad news to do this in 2010. There are cameras literally everywhere. You cannot be throwing anything at patrons of a game. Like you just can't, you don't just like take your glove off one finger at a time. Like you can't treat human beings like that.
Mark Davis sat there in SoFi Stadium taking his own fans yelling at him. And he didn't throw nothing at him. And this guy, he throws, and then he ran like a little bitch too, Tony. Not only did he throw it, he ran.
That's the thing that confuses me about it. Doesn't this motherfucker have an army of security guards around him at all times? Like, let them handle it.
Look we're opening the show the same way we close, guys. Call back here. David Tepper did not have reason to run. I was 1-on-6. Tepper has large security guys around him. He should have stood there and been like, I got more. Let me get a Gatorade bucket and dump a Wapatuli on your head.
Give me some more drinks. I'm not done throwing this shit.
I'm going to clip up these conversations so that way it doesn't even look like there's an hour podcast in between.
But Frank Wright didn't deserve to get fired. He didn't. You brought him in for a reason. And then I don't know if you guys saw Dave Tepper talk about Bryce Young, his own quarterback, and talk about how the draft process was. And he was like, yeah, he was the guy that we wanted, and we didn't think we were, so we were high on CJ Stroud, but then we got the number 1 pick. And I was like, you're basically backing him, but you're not fucking backing him. Like, it's like you had your mindset on CJ Stroud, and then you ended up somebody in that building changed you. You know who it's gonna, you know their coach is gonna be? Jim Caldwell's gonna be their coach because nobody else is gonna want to go there.
I don't think Jim Caldwell is going to take that job either. Like, why would any experienced coach want this job as a head coach?
If they played for the team and had immense passion for being a Carolina Panther, oh wait, you fired that guy. You fired him.
So I don't know if you guys remember in our Sunday morning show, I said I threw out there Ben Johnson because I saw Bryce Young started to turn a corner. The past couple of games have been really good. I was on there with Harrison. I was like, hey, we're switching to the Panthers. Keep pounding. And then they get waxed like 26-0 or whatever it is, 28-0 by the Jaguars. And your owner's doing that kind of stuff. It's like, this doesn't go away. What head coach is going to say, oh, we're going to come here. I don't get to pick my quarterback. I got to figure it out. So you got to love Bryce Young. And we don't have a first-round pick this year. And our offense is pretty bare, and you need an offensive coach. Like, what kind of – I don't think there's any amount of money that he wouldn't spend, right? Like, if you said, hey, you got to pay this money to Brandon Ayuk, he'd be like, sold. Highest paid receiver in the league. David Pepper would be like, sign a check. Here it is. What does he want?
But is Brandon Ayuk going to go, yeah, fuck, I'll come to Carolina?
I think a lot of wide receivers, if you told them, hey, you're going to get paid, you're going to become the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL, I think they'd show up there. To get that guaranteed check, they would show up there.
It's just all terrible because they need to sign a wide receiver 1, and they need to add a lot of pieces in the draft, but they just trade all those picks and a wide receiver 1. To end up in a worse off scenario than you were before you made that trade.
Dave Tepper, give us a call. We'll come in and we'll help you out. We don't have.
I don't want to work with this man. You can go.
If I can throw drinks on somebody, Tony, and get away with it, we're doing it.
I'm in.
We got nothing holding us back. We can do whatever we want. Like somebody be like, hey, Tony, you suck at draft picking. You're like, hey, fuck you. Go drink on them.
So I would have thought this. I would have thought that the year before Brock Purdy emerges, why would anybody then be giving away all of your draft picks and all of your resources to move up in a draft when we continually see that method doesn't work? That is not the process, is not giving up resources to move up on something that is not a sure thing. And I finally thought that the Brock Purdy scenario was going to be the one where they were going to go, wow, it's happened. Tom Brady was all the way at the 7th round, and you thought that was a crapshoot. Now they're literally drafting guys at the last pick. You got Kurt Warner, who's undrafted. You can find the guys that can play for you. You don't need to have the number 1 overall pick. And then this guy goes, nope, I have to have it. And I'm going to give away DJ Moore, who's a top 10, top 15 type guy receiver. I'm going to swap first-round picks and give away next year's first-round pick. Like, you cannot, owners, don't do this. Washington is next up. Washington, to me, really feels like they're going to say, hey, Bears, are you guys serious about not taking Caleb? Because we want Caleb here, and we will go trade a shit ton. Rather than just staying at your shitty pick of number 4, whatever it is, and just getting Jaden Daniels, Penix, whichever one you like, whichever one your new head coach that you hire thinks, this is the guy I can work with at that spot. Like, just do it. Look what the Colts did. Very smart. Anthony Richardson comes out. We got Shane Steichen. Boom. It looks like in the limited amount of time, it looks like they hit a home run with a guy that they said might not be ready to play for 2 years. That was what they were saying about Anthony Richardson. And he came out and he was balling with Shane Steichen.
And a lot of good GMs say what? They always say what, Tony? Let the draft fall to you. Let the draft fall, and you take what you need. And you see it every year. You see people hit and a lot of misses, a lot more misses than you see hits. So, but in the draft, it's a crapshoot. Like, you don't know what you're getting. You're hoping you're getting something good, but wow, I don't know. Carolina's been a mess.
last thing I'll say, I think that the opportunities to be risky are at the end of the second and the third round. When there are players that you go, hey, for whatever reason, there was a medical thing or this guy had like a troubled issue, you want to take a shot and you want to move some capital around to move up to get a guy at the end of the second or the third round, that's where the value is. Because you might only be swapping out like, here's a 5th round pick and a 6th round pick for me to move up a few spots to make sure that I get this running back that may have fallen for whatever reason, or I get this defensive end who may have fallen because his arm length measurement wasn't perfect, but I know that I could work with a guy like Kobe Turner from Wake Forest. Like, those are the spots where you want to move up and go get your player. Not in the first round where it's a freaking crapshoot. We have no idea how these people are going to adapt to becoming professional, like, people. It's just not, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Exactly. And that's why I've always been the guy, I've always believed that you go and you be that risky and you be that aggressive in the trade for player / free agency market over anything. Because those are the guys that have proven to have already gone over the hurdles that a rookie is going to have to face. For example, a perfect example of investing that much of your future into one player is the Matthew Stafford trade. That worked out for the Rams beautifully. And it worked out a lot better for the Rams than they would have been if they traded up for someone else, let's say Trey Lance that year. So it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting to see how they do it. I think that the more and more that this stuff happens, the less and less value those picks are going to have. And we're going to start seeing teams like, if Lamar would have gotten traded this last offseason, we're going to start to see some crazy NBA-style draft pick packages in these deals.
I think one of the things they always talk about is athletes, and especially pro athletes and college athletes, they're creatures of habit. But when you switch from going from college to the NFL, you have to create a whole new base of habits and routines. And some of those things just won't work out because some of the guys that are successful in college, they need that sort of more regimented college structure thing, the forcible workouts. And it's more kind of, I guess it's still sort of military driven in a way. Like if you play for the Patriots at some point, they're
scheduled by the minute. Yeah.
Yes. And you can't be late for meetings and everything else in the NFL, but you also have more freedom, right? You aren't going to school. You're forced to study playbooks and take it to another level of what you want to do. Getting these guys into the NFL and seeing, are you hiring a private chef? Are you hiring somebody to massage and chiropractics and all of these things? How are you taking care of your body? How is your off season going? How is your film study going? Like, you need to see all of these things. And that makes a stronger point for what you're saying, Mike, is like, have they carried over that success from college to the NFL? And can I trade for them and take them to the next level? Or can they take us to the next level? But like, that's trading in the first round for players that you know nothing about. You just have a good feeling about. It's going to bring buzz to your organization to go trade up for Caleb Williams. Good luck with that. Have fun with that.
Yep, that's why that receiver class that you were talking about, Tony, man, there's a lot of value in it this year. Hopefully these guys get the big deals that they're seeking. Joe, anything else on this topic?
No, that's it. I just want to.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy, man. I've always like wondered because like we as fans, we try and talk about what we think is going to happen. We try and talk about what we predict is going to happen and be accurate, but we can't ignore it. We're all biased in our own ways, and we root for the most fun thing to happen or the best thing to happen for our team. I've always wondered if fans ran a team with that mindset of the most fun or the most entertainment or going for that, if that would lead to any kind of success in the NFL. Because I always find myself looking back at Tank Dell and going, holy fuck, I'm a better GM than Tom Telesco. Look at
that. So I think there's an element of that, right? Where we're not looking at it from the perspective of like numbers and relationships. And we don't have all of the behind the scene interviews and temperaments and all the testing and whatever. We're going based off of like, this player's exciting. We want him. That's what's fun. Exactly. And I do think there's a little element of that. You can see that sort of like, that's like Howie Roseman. I want this. this is what I'm gonna have, and it can be successful. You know, like Les Snead has a little bit of that. There's people that are a little bit more rigid, like more sort of stereotypical, and it's less fun, but that's also successful. There's no one way to do anything. And for the record, Mike, we'd be shitty owners and general managers. I
wouldn't be drafting Alex Leatherwood. I'll tell you that shit.
I think
I'll tell you that right now.
Exactly, Joe. You wouldn't have done that. I just want to be in a situation, Tony, where I'm not running the whole thing. I need a assistant GM that's just going to bring me option A and B. And I could be like, I was elected to lead, not to read. I'm going with option B. Boom.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely think like picking players, we could have a similar hit rate to some of the more successful GMs because we aren't necessarily we aren't privy to, I think sometimes there's too much information. Like if you look at a guy,
a lot of variables to
dominating his competition at college, it's pretty safe to say like he's going to have a chance to do that in your system, right?
Yeah.
Like he's going to have a chance to get there and do that. Like, do they get on campus at 18 and dominate and then dominate for 3 or 4 years in college? There's a good chance that they'll be able to have some of that at the next level.
See, what I would do is I'd have my war room set up. We'll all be sitting there. We'll turn it on the NFL Network, and then they usually give you like, oh, they should draft these 3 players, and then we'll just pick one of those 3 players, and we'll be all right.
I'm just drafting Kool-Aid with the first overall pick this year. That's all I'm saying.
Great name. Great name. Tough game for him, though.
Yeah, we'll just go off whoever has the coolest name or whoever looks cool at that time.
Exactly.
Like Will Levis, we wouldn't have drafted him because everybody would be like, oh, mayonnaise? What the fuck are you putting in your coffee, dude? No, you're not going to do this in our building. You're not doing that in our building.
Well, I think even the entire NFL passed on him. So that's not that one actually happened. Anyways, let's wrap this up. Good show this week, y'all. It was.
Oh, you know what? I have one other thing. No, never mind. I won't do it because what if one day they do reach out to us? I was gonna piss somebody off.
Okay.
Now you have to. You can't say, "Oh, I had one more." Never mind. I don't.
Well, we have a new league coming out starting in March, right? And I'm all about that. I'm all about finding a new league, and then maybe they put a team over here on the West Coast that the 3 of us could be like, "That's our team. We're gonna pick that team and ride with them." Well, that UFL, whatever they are now, they said F the West Coast. They didn't even put a team anywhere close to us to root for. So why would I watch that league? Give me a reason to watch that league.
Because you're a football junkie?
No, not worth it.
Exact same thing, pretty much.
Here's the thing, Joe. Like, I think there's a real problem with like the regional, like this is my team and I have to root for it. I think if you should just give it a shot, if there's players on a team that you're like, oh, I like that person when they were in college or whatever, like that's the reason to root for a team. Is like it's a reason to root for any team. This idea that like, oh, just because I was born in this area, I have to root for this team. I've never understood that thought process. Like you should be emotionally invested in something that you're cheering for and liking. A lot of times it's like, well, I just really like my dad and he's a fan of this team, so I'm just going to be a fan of that.
This is bullshit, actually. I'm with you, Joe. Screw the freaking UFL. Tony, sorry for just like immediately shitting on you, but I rooted for the New Orleans Breakers in the USFL. And then I rooted for the Seattle Dragons, Ben DiNucci and Josh Gordon led Seattle Dragons, by the way. And both teams are getting the can. Both teams are out. What the fuck?
But it doesn't really matter. Like, I'm sure there's probably some like method to their madness. Like I'm sure these are close enough in cities where they might be able to get like flights easy to get in and out of stadiums, or there's got to be access to facilities in these areas. There has to be some reasoning why they're starting the minor leagues. Like Joe's mad about not having a team on the West Coast because we don't have the Toledo Mud Hens near us. Like nobody is going.
3 teams in Texas, Tony. 3 teams in Texas.
Great. Then they'll be able to travel and have stadium setups and things like you'll
Birmingham,
be able to...
Houston, Memphis, Michigan, Arlington, Washington, D.C., San Antonio, and St. Louis.
I just don't get how you can can a bunch of teams and not give us any new teams. Now I have to go and pick and root for one of the teams that I hated in previous years. This is bullshit. At least they got rid of the Vegas team too. No one wants to go to Vegas.
No way I'm rooting for Birmingham, Alabama, Tony.
Let's just say this. You guys had manufactured hate for likes on TikTok. Like, there's no real foundation of dislike for any of this bullshit. I'm telling you, look at the rosters, find players that you want to get behind and hype, and then you'll enjoy them.
I'm just going to leave it to
a road trip. I think here's the thing. All three of us should agree on one team so that we have a football team that we can all root for together. I'll let you guys pick, and I'll find a reason on that roster to get behind them. If Hines Ward's the coach, I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to help me out.
I can tell you who the coaches are. Skip Holtz, Curtis Johnson, John DeFilippo, Mike Nolan, Bob Snoops, Reggie Barlow, Wade Phillips, or Anthony Beck. Those are your 8 coaches.
I've always been a fan of Wade Phillips.
Skip Holtz.
So Wade Phillips is doing San Antonio, and then you said, who'd you say, Mike?
Skip Holtz is Birmingham for sure.
For Birmingham, and yeah. I'll go St. Louis Battlehawks.
Oh, we're supposed to pick the same team. The same team.
Way to go, Joe! You already fucked up.
I thought you said you went on pick up. This is why we don't like this damn league, Tony. It's already tearing us apart. It's already tearing us apart.
If shitty Shea Patterson's on any team, I'm not rooting for that team.
I'm out. I went through it at Michigan. I'm telling you right now, it's not.
Yeah, it was not worth it in the USFL or XFL either. I'll tell you that much.
No,
he looked like
he'll break your heart.
Is it too late to get Zach Wilson on one of these teams?
No, I wonder if they can build this league big enough. If some backups will say, "I'd rather be the star of that league than the backup of this league," but they got to grow it. They can't keep changing it every single year. It has to be consistent for anyone to trust it.
I think this is the stage. This is the point where we're going to start. And I've been telling you that since I've known you, Mike. Yeah. Why would, if you're a star of this league and they are committed to keeping it going and they're going to start to have record books, why would you want to go be a special teamer in the NFL? Yeah. Because you're going to make a little bit extra money.
Well, the way they have it structured, you can do both. You can go and be a special teamer and you can play in this league. So that would be fun. I can't wait to see stuff like that. We saw a star special teamer created out of the XFL.
The human body would allow that to happen for like 2 years. If one of these guys was playing football year round, like it would happen. He'd start at age 24. He'd be a sensation. And by age 27, he'd be like he's just every bone in his body would be sore or broken or whatever. Like,
that's basically Bo Scarborough is the guy you're describing right there. He's played in every fucking league in the world at this point.
Yeah, the human body cannot play tackle football year round. It's not meant for that.
Anyways, maybe we'll let the MJT viewers vote. If you guys have no life and you're still listening to this for some reason, comment down below which UFL team we should team up on together, Joe, and root for. Maybe we'll pick that team. Maybe we won't. We might just ignore your guys' vote, but at least give us a tally. Maybe what we do is we pick the team we like the most, and then we take the team that they voted for, and then we decide between those two in another episode.
Yeah, who should be the team of MJT, the UFL team of MJT?
Which one has the best jerseys? That's what we got to do.
There we go. I think that's another good thing. We can get some merch rolling in the background here.
Because that is a big deal. When you're looking at teams, I mean, you have to be able to rock something cool, right?
I agree.
Otherwise, it's not even, you don't really want. That's why I picked the Dragons.
Let's cut this and we'll talk about it. But I think you guys should put up a poll, or maybe both of you put up polls where you have your most loyal followings. I'll do a poll amongst my house, which they'll all be like, "We don't give a shit, old man. Get out of here."
Yeah, get your old ass.
Well, I had a video in the works right now where I was going to say everything you need to know about the UFL. Maybe I'll add the poll into that video. I'll just say, vote in the comments which team I should root for and see what they say. There we go.
Did the Philadelphia Stars win it all last year and they got deleted?
We're not rooting for the Philadelphia Stars, though, even if they are still there.
But again, this is not necessarily, I think that a lot of this is like, it's going to start small and local where they have resources. It's going to be in the South mainly because you got warm weather in these shitty seasons where you might have to play outside. Like, people. There's more activity in that area. Like Michigan's the one spot where it's like kind of odd to me. Like it's hard enough to get people.
The LA Mountain Lions will be back.
The winning team in this league goes and takes the Panthers spot next year. What they say.
Joe, we can't even fill up the Chargers stadium with Chargers fans. You think they're going to give us another fucking minor league franchise? Like, we can't even rally these assholes to get out there for Justin Herbert. You think they're going out there for fucking Zach Wilson?
They built the fan base an entirely new state-of-the-art stadium. It still didn't work.
It's too damn big, by the way, too. They need to start like powder bluing out large sections of that stadium.
Not the whole thing, just like the lower bowl.
Like, somewhere like the upper part or the lower part, just putting powder blue posters and being like, hey, this is like force everybody down.
The COVID cardboard cutouts, isn't that what that's from, Joe?
100,000 seats. For a team that was struggling to fill Qualcomm for years. They give them 100,000 seat stadium.
All right, guys. We said we were going to end this thing 30 minutes ago. We actually mean it this time. Please like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you can be here every time we go live. We go live on Sunday mornings, usually before the games. We sometimes go live at random other times when we get time. Also, we are going to be uploading this weekly podcast once a week throughout the rest of the season into the off season as the UFL gets started. Let us know your guys' opinions if you can still hear me. Your guys' opinions on this playoff picture, because that's what the main topic of today's show was the playoff picture and how crazy it is going in week 18. Anything else, guys? You got anything else to ruin my
nothing better than two balls slapping at the end of the show?
If you smell what the Rock is cooking, I'll take that as a no. We'll see you guys next time.